Exclusivo 2012, right? 11.
Hi, this is Bill Barris from the Cigar Snapshot podcast at www.cigarsnapshot.com. And you're listening to the Stogie Geeks podcast at www.stogiegeeks.com. These guys are real geeks. About stogies, that is. And let me tell you, I've been smoking cigars for over 20 years, and I learned a new word from them. The word is cigar. Keep up the great work, guys.
Hey, this is the Doc from the Stogie Fresh 5 podcast, and you're listening to the Geeks, the Stogie Geeks, with Tim and Paul. Kick back and enjoy as the Geeks kick ass each week. Listen in to the regular episodes as they smoke and chat about their weekly list of stogies. And now, back to the Stogie Geeks.
So I wanted to start the segment with something that, I mean, you do things nice for people, not because you want recognition, but I wanted to share this story on the show because it involves very heavily cigars and kind of showcases how my being a nerd about cigars actually paid off to help a good cause, and I wanted to share it so that you could do the same thing too. I was at the largest computer security conference in the world. There's about 15,000 computer hackers that converge on Las Vegas every summer for the DEF CON conference. And there's a charity there called Hackers for Charity. And it's my good friend Johnny Long. He does relief work in Uganda and some of the surrounding countries to help them economically with just direct donations, and also help them, give them training, right? You know, the whole thing about teaching a man to fish. So it actually sets up computer training classrooms, teaches people about computers so they can get jobs and further their careers and be more self-sufficient. So he's dedicated his life to this. His whole family has moved out to Uganda. So being a close friend of mine and one of the people I really respect and admire in the computer security field, we do whatever we can to help him. And I mean, we're friends, so he helps us out too. So it's just an awesome thing when you help Johnny, just to kind of see the good things that come from it. So they do every year an auction at the conference live at their booth. So they'll auction things off to make money for the charity, and people will donate things for them to auction off. Well, my friend Steve gave them 2 boxes of cigars from some place in, and maybe one of the listeners in our chat room will remember where it is, but it's in New Orleans, and they hand roll all their cigars in New Orleans. So it was 2 boxes from this place in New Orleans. I forget exactly where. It doesn't really matter for the story. They were
the French Quarter, I believe.
Yeah, they were good. There was like a Maduro Robusto size, and there was a Connecticut, almost like a cross between a Lancero and a Corona. It was like someone took a Lancero and kind of like cut it down to size. Both really good. The Maduro Robusto was way better than the other one. I sampled each of them as I was going around. So they were auctioning off the cigars, and these cigars are upwards of $100 per box. Zedman is saying New Orleans Cigar Factory is the company. So these cigars going upwards of $100 a box. So they went up on auction, and it was a live auction, and their table at the vendor expo was right across from ours. So I saw someone holding up a box of cigars at the Hackers for Charity booth, and he was like, $20, and I'm like, 30. Nice. He's holding up the other, he's like, 30. I'm like, 40. So I bought both boxes for $70, and I'm like, that kind of stinks. Like, there weren't a lot of cigar smokers that happened to be standing there at the time, except for me, and here I am. I won both these boxes. So this was Saturday, and all the parties were happening on Saturday night because Sunday was the last day of the conference. So I filled up my Stogie Geeks shirt that I'm wearing, all 4 pockets, filled them up with cigars, and I brought a gigantic bag of cigars and carried it around with me. And the deal was anyone that asked, and I would have other people selling them for me, I said, it's $10 a cigar. And I said, all the money I'm going to give back to Hackers for Charity. I said, so I told him, I said, I bought both these boxes for $70. I don't feel that was enough for Johnny. I said, give me $10. I'll give you a cigar that you can have to smoke at the parties. And I said, I'll give all this money back to Johnny. So, like, it felt so good to walk in the next morning in the vendor area, you know, and like hand Johnny a bag full of like hungover, tired, like, here you go, dude. Like, you know, hand him almost $500 cash and be like, I didn't feel like you got enough. So that's a good story where you can use cigars to do great things. Now, Mark, you're attending an event that's also doing something nice for a charity as well.
Absolutely, I am. It's going to be the second time I've gone, but it's an annual event. It's held every year at West Point. A good friend of mine, his name is Charlie Biryani, runs what's called the Quad State HERF, and it's a benefit for the Wounded Warriors Foundation. I believe half of your entrance ticket goes to it, as well as 100% of the raffle proceeds go to it. And guys, it is an epic raffle. Epic raffle.
You were telling us about
200 plus gifts. The grand prize, you know, boxes of cigars, guayaveras to take home, pounds and pounds of coffee, or, you know, he gets tons and tons. He solicits donations all year just for this one event. Tons of ashtrays, cutters, lighters, all this kind of stuff. And the grand prize is actually an Aristocrat end table humidor, right? So, you know, it just really, really phenomenal raffle prizes for a really, really great cause. And one of the things that I've really liked about the cigar smoking community since I've been involved in it is that it's a pretty socially conscious group of people. They are all genuinely good people that I've come across, and you know, we do an awful lot, and we try to, and you know, events like this are always a really great thing to attend, and just to do a little part, even if you just buy your $50 ticket.
It's amazing to me how
why not be a part of it, right?
How you can use cigars and do nice things for people like that. That's really cool.
It really is.
So
it is.
Please
it goes
continue,
a long way.
Continue that. Pass it. You know, pay it forward. And do nice things for people, and use cigars to do that. I think that's awesome. So, okay, we're going to talk about. So, how did everyone's Fuente Untold Story Gran Reserva Maduro thing do? I just keep saying them in a different order. Just
mine was fantastic. It was a phenomenal smoke. It was. I finished it and moved on to another smoke, more relevant to the second portion here, but. It was a phenomenal smoke. It's the first one I think I've ever had of the Untold Story of Atolla, and I would go back many, many times in the future, as a matter of fact.
It's good. It's just I feel that after about an inch and a half to the end, you have to kind of put it down.
Now, see, mine's still smoking good. I mean, it's getting a little hot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It gets a little hot after an inch and a half. And
mine got very hot at the end.
But other than that, I smoke those things all day. I think they're great.
Yeah, I think they're great cigars. Full of flavor. Burns great.
Absolutely.
I think worth the $16, too.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I moved on myself. I moved on to a Padron 64. But it smoked great, man. I nubbed it.
Nice. So, I wanted to start out by with this segment. We're going to talk about limited cigars in kind of a general fashion, and talk about some of the things that occur when we talk about a limited run of cigars. And I wanted to start out by defining what a limited cigar is. And I mean, it runs the gamut. Like there are some cigars that are just like super limited. I mean, you could. I think there's some like Fuente, Opus X, or even someone from Fuente where, I mean, they only make one or two cigars ever. Like, if you look on the Vitolas.net, right, I mean, that for me really defines what, like, the most limited cigars are of the entire world. There's ones that look like a football, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And,
they made a couple different kinds of them.
Yeah, a couple different kinds, and they maybe made a handful, maybe, I don't know, maybe half a dozen, and you hear, like, how stories about it was being passed around at a party or something because it's this gigantic 120 ring gauge, you know, football-shaped cigar.
The Sopranos limited edition, they had a gift set that had different shapes and sizes. That I remember.
The baseball bat, the bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a base. Yes.
One looked like a champagne bottle.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, and that was a Sopranos?
There's actually a box of
Sopranos
those up right now on BOTL for sale.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that.
No, I found with those really super, super rare ones, like the people that smoke them kind of say, like, it was just done as a promotional thing and it really wasn't that great of a smoke kind of thing.
Yeah, probably. I could see that, and I would probably.
And I could see with those really weird shapes, too, like the Those are the. 50%.
They made one that looked like a cactus. Have you ever seen that
No,
one before?
no.
No, seriously.
Really?
You smoke one end and it came out like the stereotypical cactus you'd see in a Western movie.
Nice.
So it came out with like a big long section down the middle, and then it forked out on 2 sides, and you lit 3 ends of it.
Nice. That's pretty wild, actually. So yeah, I mean I think like the extreme end of super limited, right? And then I think it goes. The other side of that is, I think you see a lot of the online websites where they'll call something limited, but you see it in their catalog like every month for the past 4 years as being limited. And
You
it's
got to
like,
be careful. You definitely
wait a
gotta be
minute,
careful.
how is that limited if you've been selling it for the past 4? So I think people can definitely abuse the limited, and everyone uses the terms reserva, limitada, limited edition on all their cigars, and it may not be so limited.
I think. You
Oh
need,
yeah, I mean, look at 100 Años. It's been limited since 2003, and now they're re-releasing it at this year's
Right.
IPCPR. So
Good.
Oh, yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, I mean that's
You're
one
wrong.
that's truly special. I agree.
I think for when it comes to looking for limited cigars, that if you consider yourself a novice cigar smoker or not an expert cigar smoker, you really should stay away from trying to chase limited cigars, because you'll find that you fall into those pit traps that essentially, like, you'll go online and like, oh, it says limited and it's from this company, so it must be it must be really good. You really need to know the company before you start trying to invest in those good cigars, because you might fall flat on your face. Especially in this time where even some of the very legitimate companies, where like Viaje or Tatuaje, they come out and like they give that one store a limited cigar where you can only get it at that store. Like, great ones are called the Barclay Rex and whatnot. But
Yeah,
And the one you're smoking.
what's that?
And the one you're smoking right now.
And the one I'm smoking.
I
which-
agree, Ben. That's definitely another aspect of limited cigars. There are the manufacturers will release a specific cigar, different tobaccos, different sizes, shapes, or a combination, to a specific store, and it's only available at that store.
Yeah, I think if you don't really if you don't consider yourself an expert cigar smoker or someone who smokes cigars on a very regular basis, you should probably stay away from that and just stay close to the staples before you start venturing off, because you could very easily get burned on some of these cigars. Like, some of them, you really have to be able to predict what cigar is going to be really good and what cigar is really, that's limited, that's not going to be good. And you have to be able to distinguish between the two. And it's very difficult, even for a professional or an expert cigar smoker. So, it's something that, I would say after a few years of really smoking cigars, that's the time where you start getting into it and like, oh, I'm going to chase after that and whatnot, because you have to know. Because it's limited, you have to have a good idea before it comes out that it's going to be good before you start purchasing it, unless you have money to burn.
Well, for instance, I mean, a lot of us out there went after for that matter, the Halloween releases of Pete Johnson.
Yeah, that's another great example. I mean, I was when I was writing this up, it was kind of like
And for the most part, they've all been really good. But
except for the Wolfman, but yeah.
I was just gonna say, and we all fell into the trap. I have a box, you have a box,
Exactly.
and
We just keep waiting for them to get better.
I will say that the Little Monsters, I think, based on my experience, that Little Monsters, if you save the card in the whole box, that is a good investment.
And again, Ben brings up another great aspect of these limited things. Sometimes you buy them, and someone in the chat room was talking about a term. What did he say that it was? A trade booty, trade something. Like, you buy cigars just to have them, just to be able to trade them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I thought that was really kind of fun that you would actually do that. Just
I've done it.
yeah.
Look at the Leatherface or the face.
the
rather.
Leatherface, the lover fair, the lover face, the lover face. Really?
Well, the face. That's why the face. Like,
Love
we
what?
Paul and I had a discussion.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I think it was HLJ said trade bait. So you buy
Trade
them just
bait,
for
nice.
trade bait.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I mean, when we had talked about the face, well, when that
Yes.
came out, Tatuaje,
Ah,
you're like,
yeah.
should I spend an extra
Yeah.
$2 more per stick on
I'm like,
the cigar?
Ben, I'm like, dude, I have a box, but like they're really good, and I really want another box, and I may not get around to smoking them, but should I have them just to trade? Ben's like, yes,
I'm
absolutely.
really glad you did.
Yeah, I did, because
Yeah.
Mark Jr. benefited
like
from that. Yeah.
you have to. It's really, really difficult. You have to be able to predict what is a cigar. If you're going to trade it, what is this cigar going to be worth 2 years from now? And that is a very difficult thing to do.
And worth is interesting, and it's not just monetary, right? Like, I wanted some vintage Cubans, and Mark Jr. had them, and I had a
Right.
box of the face, and it was perfect for me, because I'm like, whatever you...
And me.
Yeah, it was a perfect trade, right? I mean, that's the cigar brotherhood. I think doing that kind of stuff is great. So
For Stogie Geeks listeners, I will, at least if you want to follow what I say, I think that the Little Monsters package, if you keep the card, a year from now, it will be worth more than what you paid for it. You'll be able to
Ben's
trade
like the stock analyst, but like
Yeah.
for cigars. He's
Yeah,
like, I'm going to recommend which limited releases you should buy.
Oh, Ben, where were you when I had the chance to buy a box of pork tenderloin, man?
Oh, I
That
know.
was the fail.
I wasn't in the
Yeah.
business back
You know,
then.
and that's a limited
Oh,
release.
that's
I've smoked
real.
2 pork tenderloins, and they've been. I mean, that's an
Epic.
Oasis. That is hands down an Oasis cigar for me.
On the
It's-
Daisy
it's
Cutter
still
level.
my white-
Yeah, it's
one
on the
white whale,
Daisy
man.
Cutter is another one where there's a limited release, and that is definitely an Oasis cigar for me too. And
Let-
those are ones where like you, and that's another good aspect of the whole limited cigar thing. It's like, how do you know which ones are worth buying? You know, sometimes you got to go out on a whim, and if you pay attention to the websites, a lot of them will get mixed reviews, and that may not be in tune with your own palate. So what's an Oasis cigar to me may be lawn mulch for you at the opposite end of the spectrum. So how do you know? And you can't always buy one to sample it. I mean, typically, like with the pork tenderloin, like Tim was saying, you get that small window of opportunity where like, you want to go in a box of these, and it's just solely dependent on your budget at the time, you know?
What I do when I you know, and Paul will say that I'm somewhat good at picking out what cigar will be a sell and what cigar will be, you know, kind of a drag when you're trading cigars. What I do is I look up around 5 years. I go 5 years back, and I look at all the limited releases, and I literally put them in 2 categories. Which ones were like after 2 years, a year, really sold out of the gate, like literally people would pay a lot of money, or it'd be worth a lot more than what it was actually first established at, and then the other category would be like floppers, and I compare the difference between the two. So like, what characteristics did all the really best sellers have, and what did all the characteristics of all the flappers have? And that's how I base it off of. So usually smaller cigars do better. Usually
Yeah.
cigars that have a better review. Cigars that come from certain companies usually do better. So you really have to look at it. And
Ben's
and,
like the statistician of...
yeah,
of cigar.
I do a lot of statistics.
But let me ask you this now, guys. I'll throw it out this for everyone. Do you think that if you had to think of some of the best cigars you've ever had in your entire life, like what percentage of those are limited edition? And second part of that question is, how much did the limited availability of that cigar factor into the equation? Like you were smoking something that you knew not a lot of people may have smoked in their lifetime.
I mean, me personally, I don't think it factors in that much. Either I like it or I don't. You know,
I agree, Tim. You're a little more down to earth than most on the limited. You don't fall into
Maybe.
the hype.
I mean,
No, I agree.
I think because I have a very limited budget. I mean, I have a family, and you know, we all have families. I mean,
Well, I think if you have a more limited budget, you probably are. If you want to smoke something really fabulous, the other category is really truly aged cigars. Fall into that category too, right?
I really think what drives limited cigars, that generally it's not actually the hype that does have a lot of weight. It has more weight once the limited cigar of that brand catches. So obviously when Tatuaje came up with the pork tenderloin and came out with the Barclay Lex, like literally people were hunting for Tatuaje limited cigars because that brand was established limited wise that it was really good. But what I think in the beginning, what really establishes it is that the limited cigars come out for a tobacconist, a specific tobacconist, and what that tobacconist looks for is flavors that you don't normally see, but like a connoisseur would look for. So essentially, when you're going to limited releases, it's for palates that are very sophisticated and aren't general. So like when you get general releases, that's more for like hitting a larger target. And when you get limited releases for specific cigar companies, they're trying to hit a very specific target, and they do it very well. I think that's why limited cigars for connoisseurs it hits very well, is because they're trying to hit targets that essentially aren't hit with general cigars, like something that would be a normal staple for someone who's just an average cigar smoker. So I think that's where limited releases really get their benefit in the beginning. After a long time, it definitely the grandeur of having a limited cigar from that company after it's been established certainly does have an effect.
I think I'm going to go with the Ashantishan.
What?
I'm just choosing my scotch from the wall.
That is
Mark
actually
says you're making all
Auchentoshan.
love.
Auchentoshan, thank you. Sorry, Auchentoshan.
Someone actually corrected me
It's
on
like
that.
Macintosh, but Auchentoshan.
Auchentoshan.
Gotcha.
But I definitely think with limited cigars, you want to go with smaller cigar. Like statistically, if you want to look at what cigars trade better, it's typically a smaller cigar. It's a cigar that changes a lot more. So when you're smoking cigars, regardless of the flavor, a cigar that changes more, and also from a company that is more established. So a Tatuaje limited release would probably do better than a boutique cigar that has limited release, obviously. So yeah, I would say look at things like that.
And I think it also speaks to, like they're saying in the chat room, how much does the band factor into how much you like the cigar? And we've all experienced. I mean, that's why we do Unbanded, right? Because a lot of times when you smoke without the band, you'll get your unbiased opinion of that cigar.
A cheap band will definitely limit, the popularity of that cigar.
Where it comes from, or
not just that, just like the look of the band. Like if the band
okay.
looks cheap, you're less likely to be appealed by it. Also, on the internet, I found statistically that if the box doesn't look that good, then it's less likely to be a really good seller. So if you look at a lot of box sales on the internet, a lot of ones that sell really well are ones that are much more artistically crafted and are much more appealing. That's just statistically from what I've seen, that from picking at it. It doesn't change the flavor of the cigar, but...
So how much does the limited factor of it factor in your expectations? Like, when I smoke a limited cigar, my expectations, I think, are naturally higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt,
right?
without a doubt.
Because you think, well, it's limited, so they must use, like, the better tobaccos that are, like...
I think that's
Must
more...
be aged more, or it must be a special blend, or...
I think that increases as that company does more limited cigars. So like with the pork tenderloin, I don't think expectations were high at all.
I think you're right.
I think that was I literally think people got it and said this is an awesome cigar. And then as he started coming out with more limited releases, people's expectations started getting higher, and then that started changing the effect a little bit. That's my opinion.
Well, yeah, Pete Johnson's a kind of the freak of that. I mean, he comes out with limiteds all the time, and they're pretty much all really good.
You look at Viaje.
They're an exclusive limited company now.
Their limited editions in the beginning, everybody raved about, but now, like...
yeah, exactly. Everyone talks about the first Summerfest, the first Late Harvest,
TNT,
the first
Skull and Bones.
first Skull and Bones.
That's another variable that I would say is that literally the first release of a cigar is almost always, it's probably like 6 times odds ratio better than the second release. So if you're going to go in on a limited cigar for trade, you should always try to pick out the first release rather than the second release. Second release is typically not as good or typically not as popular as the first release. I mean, I can't think of a cigar that the second release was better than the first release. I mean, maybe you can, but...
No, I mean, yeah, you got a point there, Ben.
Now the other angle too is comebacks. So we kind of touched on this before, and I've had mixed success with this in that the first release of a cigar, limited release, is absolutely phenomenal, and then they try and re-release it, and it's not as good. And it's hit or miss.
Skull and Bones.
I'd say it's like 50-50.
Skull and Bones is a perfect example. I mean,
Yeah.
they nailed it right with the Daisy Cutter, and then they come back with a bunch
even-
of like
even the-
mediocres, right?
Yeah.
And then I mean, the box press
decent.
mystery was really good.
Yeah,
in my
and
opinion.
the red
Red
band,
Label
the first red
last
label
year.
one,
The
mini-
Moab wasn't bad.
the
either.
Moab, the first 2011 Moab is really good now.
What I would say is based on that, I think that what distinguishes between what's going to be a good second release is that if you look at, you have to look time-wise. Did the company say that the first release was going to be the only release and that's it, and then they came out with a second release? I think the second release is more likely to be worse. If the company says this is our first release and doesn't elaborate that this is the only release and that we're not going to redo it, and then they come out with a second release, that second release is usually a little bit better. I think when they try to come out based on the fact that it was very popular, that it's usually the second release is a lot. It's not as good.
rushed.
It's
Yeah.
rushed, exactly.
I would agree with that statement because if you look at something like the Viaje Holiday Blend, which wasn't very popular
Right.
the first year, I think last year's was fantastic. The second release. I mean, was it box worthy? Maybe not, but it was a solid smoke, and it was certainly better than the first release, in my opinion.
I think
But-
when they come back and contradict what they're saying, time wise in the beginning, it's more likely that's going to be a bad cigar.
Yeah.
When they don't say that and that they come out with a second release and they were actually planning it, that's going to be less likely to be a bad cigar and more likely to be a good cigar. Statistically at least. Like if you wanted to, build up your trade stock so that you could trade for cigars that you wanted, essentially. I mean that's something that I'm into. I don't trade a lot, but I think about it a lot at least.
So what you're saying, Ben, is you're sitting on a whole stash of good stuff right now that we should hit you up.
No, I just advise people. I advise Paul and Mark Maloney.
Well, so here's the thing,
You're a
though.
consultant. Got it.
Aging also plays a factor in as well.
It does.
So the Moab is a good example. Like when it first came out, the 2011 Mini Torpedo Moab, they came out in March 2011. When they first came into the shop, I was like, it's like this overpowering, and sometimes they release them way too young. I mean, the Ratzilla, I think, is a good example of that. So then you put a year on that cigar in your humidor, and you're like, holy crap, this is a phenomenal cigar. I wish I bought more. And that's another, it's like you're rolling the dice
Right.
every time you go buy a limited cigar.
That's what I call the kicker. So if you're willing to gamble on a certain cigar being good, you should look at that. Will it be better in age? And that's the kicker. That's something that basically hedges your bet. So, you buy a cigar. What cigars age better than cigars that don't age better? And I find that when you smoke a cigar that just came out, if it's overpowering and you think that it had a little too much strength and and the flavors were overwhelmed, that's a cigar that over age will get better and the value of that cigar will increase. Versus a cigar that you thought that the flavor was just horrible and that it didn't have enough strength, that cigar probably will not get better with age.
Yeah.
So it's something to look at also with like, okay, I'm going to spend a decent, I'm going to invest in this cigar, and then I smoked it, should I sell it now? Should I trade it now or should I trade it later? You smoke it, and is it overpowering, but there's decent flavors? Yeah? Okay, I'll hold on to that cigar. Yeah. But if it's a cigar that, it tastes like soap and turpentine, and then, it had some power, but you were overwhelmed by the soap and turpentine, well, that's a cigar you trade immediately.
Yeah,
and get rid of.
I think what we're coming down to is, if you've got an unlimited budget and the means to find limited smokes, go ahead and buy them because they are often, 50% of the time, they are epic cigars. But not everyone has an unlimited budget, so you kind of have to, you have to use caution. And
yeah, I would say it's for someone that has been in the cigar world for a long time, knows what they want, knows what cigars do well, and if you're into trading, it's a good investment because
it is.
You'll be able to get cigars that you want,
right.
And you'll be able to trade cigars that you have and that are very valuable to other people. So you'll be doing a service to other people by having keeping a stock of cigars that people don't usually have. And the way to do that is to really look at the trends. And the trends show that, what we were just talking about, smaller ring gauge cigars cigars that, you know, maybe in the beginning were overpowering but had good flavors. You age them, and then, you know, later in life people will revisit them and say that they're really good. You know, it really is based on how much you want to invest and what you're looking for. And, you know, you just look at what makes a really good cigar and what makes a flopper, and you'll do just fine.
So do we want to try and get Stogie Santa back on one more time and see how drunk Stogie is at IPCPR?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I think I figured out how to add him in the call. Okay, ready?
All right,
Okay, we're dialing Stogie Santa now. See if he picks up.
Dial in. Chat room agrees too.
Oh, it's ringing. It's ringing. Whoa.
Hello.
Hey, it's Stogie Santa. We're just we're rounding out the show here, Stogie Santa. We wanted to see how you were doing there and if you had any more information for us.
Nothing at this moment. Nothing. Everything's still at status quo.
So now,
No special.
well, you said before you smoked about a dozen cigars or more. Is your drink count about the same now?
Funny you should ask. It's almost equal.
It's almost equal now. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So the cigar smoking night's over.
Cigar smoking night's over, and round things out. So you got a big day tomorrow at IPCPR, right?
Yes, we do. We absolutely do. We're looking forward.
I got another question for you, Stogie Santa. What is the cigar that you hear most people talking about? Like, we talked about the sleeper, but what, from your perspective, but what is a cigar that when you talk to other people visiting the convention say, you know, you've heard the most productive?
Probably, I would say the Avion, the new one that's coming out. That's about it. There's a lot of people that's speaking about that.
The new Avion?
2012 or?
Yeah, the 12, correct.
Yep.
That's been a buzz in the air, Pete. And again, the other one is the Quesada. The Jalapa has been a lot of news.
What do they say about the Avion? Is it stronger, or does it have more flavor?
They're supposed to be the same strength.
Are they? Do you think the new Avions are going to be smokable, or are they going to have the same construction problems as they did before?
That's a great question. That I can't answer. That's something Pete would ask. You know what I mean? I hopefully.
I mean,
knowing him.
One of the things we do on the Stogie Geeks, we call a spade a spade. I mean, and that's a cigar I've had a lot of construction issues with, unfortunately. And the ones that have smoked great have just been absolutely phenomenal. But I haven't had too many. Yeah, I haven't had too many that really smoked good, which is too bad.
I wonder if they're going to improve that horrible band too.
I think he'll correct that. I mean, I'm sure he's heard all the complaints about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure.
I thought 2012 was already out. To be honest, I've seen it places here and there on the internet.
Yeah, here and there. Right, Tim. You're right. Absolutely. But like I said, I can't wait for that belly. I just can't wait on Jalapa. I mean, like I said, the Robusto was really, really, really good, but the belly's the one that got the big score on just on half wheel and what is it, full wheel, whatever you want to call it.
50% flat tire.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll pump it up a little better, but I'm really anxious for that. Like I said, getting that numbers in here is going to be difficult. It's very limited release, so that's the one I'm really, really. I just loved it. I enjoyed it. I would say that's my favorite one so far, by far.
Awesome.
So, yep,
and that's Stogie Santa so the Quesada Jalapa.
Yes, that's the name of the cigar itself, right?
Okay.
It comes in different sizes: Robusto, the belly, and I don't know what the other two sizes are. There's 4 sizes coming out.
And so what's the deal behind that blend? Like, what is it?
I did. It's a great point. They didn't give me any kind of breakdown of what it is.
They just said this is fabulous. Please smoke it.
According to Half Wheel, it's the
What's
España with a different wrapper.
Oh, so is this the 60 ring larger ring? No, okay.
So is the Robusto, the Bellicoso,
totally
and the
right. You'll find it a stronger smoke than the original release on the España. You'll see what I'm talking about when you smoke it. It's just the last third was absolutely delicious, full flavored, and like I said, even balanced at that young of age. How long that cigar I smoked, I don't know. I can't tell you, but it's really, really, really good. Very much so. I think it's going to be a box-worthy cigar in my mind, no doubt about it. Not quite at a waste if it's early yet. It's very, very tough to take at this point, but we'll see. By all means. So this way here, we'll be checking in at Ashton Cigar Dinner tomorrow night there. I'm sure Lito will be there. Pete will be there. So it'll be an interesting scenario. See what's going down.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Stogie Santa.
right.
Get some rest, and we'll check in with you when you get back. And you can check you're tagging stuff on our Facebook page. Is that the deal?
But I will.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. All righty, take care.
Buddy. Take care, bye.
So that was the final update from Stogie Santa on the first day of IPCPR. Thanks to Stogie Santa for doing that, and always entertaining. And was there anything else that you guys want to talk about, or anything else on limited releases?
According to the Intertubes, the Jalapa will be limited in each size. There's 3 sizes to 1,000 boxes of 10 cigars. So,
now is the Jalapa like their American release of the España?
correct. As Mark Jr. stated, it's with a different wrapper, according to Half Wheel. So,
Yeah, so they changed the wrapper, and they also made the sizes more
Yes.
different towards the American market, which I'm really disappointed
Correct.
in. Because I like the original wrapper, and I like the original sizes. I liked the Cuban-style sizes, I think, is what they were going for, with a short Robusto, a Corona, and what was the other size in España?
Robusto.
In a
Robusto.
Robusto, yeah.
Yep.
I liked those sizes. They should.
So these guys with this release would be a Robusto, a Belly, and what they call a Prominente, which is a 7 5/8 by 49, according to Half Wheel. So
Okay, so that's not horrible. I thought they were larger ring than that.
no.
Excellent. Looking forward to smoking that.
Me too. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah. Because
I'm excited for
Quesada-
a bunch of stuff, actually.
I have to say, I mean, not to speak, better towards one company or the other, but Quesada's been knocking them out of the park.
killing it.
Their
I would
cigars
used
are
to-
awesome.
I used to
The
not be a
Oktoberfest.
big fan, but
The
they
tribute-
have been killing it
The
lately.
Tributo was not phenomenal.
No, but starting with the Oktoberfest, then the España, then the first Coup d'etat, I thought was very good as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, really good smokes. All right. Well, that rounds it out for this edition of the Stogie Geeks. Shout out to listener Big Pete. Definitely, he gave us some unbanded smokes. We didn't have a chance to do those this show, but they are on the short list. Like I said,
We're
ran
going to
into-
wait for Stogie Santa for those.
Yeah, we'll wait for Stogie Santa for those, and who is away this week. So I wanted to say that you should join the CRA. I wanted to mention that.
Please,
do.
guys,
Please
everyone
do.
join it.
And that's something we haven't really harped on, but we're all members of the CRA, and you should definitely do that.
They're the
because-
only people out there fighting for our ability to do what we do.
And there were people coming after our ability to smoke cigars, which is just a crime of humanity, and it's absolutely atrocious. So please join the CRA and support our right to smoke, so that we can get here and do this every week. Because I really think if all the legislation passes, the government will say that we can't come into this room and smoke anymore, which is, I mean, that's
A
really what's
crying
going to
shame.
end.
We'll have
It
to
is a
roll
crying
our own
shame.
cigars in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to put this in stealth mode or something.
Then our big humidors will be a tremendous advantage
Yes,
over everyone
yes,
else.
exactly, exactly. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you all in the next episode of the Stogie Geeks.
Good night.